there's two places for handouts, right?
Yes.
It's the master services agreement
Yep.
and then the budget.
Yes.
We can talk about that later.
Yep.
Yep.
So my buddy, he was trying to open up a cigar.
Good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, and it's about time to call our meeting to order. There we go. I'd like to welcome everyone in our City Council audience, as well as our listening audience at WCBU. I'd also like to welcome the audience watching on cable channel 22. And with that, I call the meeting of November 22nd, 2022 of the Peoria City Council to order. We've received a notice this evening from Mayor Ali in accordance with rules established in Ordinance Number 16142 that Mayor Ali would be deemed authorized to attend the meeting electronically unless a motion objecting to the electronic attendance is made, seconded, and approved by 2/3 of the members of the City Council physically present at the meeting. If no such motion is made and seconded, then the request by Mayor Ali to attend this meeting electronically shall be deemed approved by the City Council and myself, the presiding officer, and Mayor Ali shall be declared present. Are there any objections? Okay, Mayor Ali will be attending electronically. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll?
Mayor Ali. Mayor Ali. Councilmember Allen.
Present.
Councilmember Sear. Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson. Here. Councilmember Jensen. Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Euler. Councilmember Riggenbach.
Here.
Councilmember Ruckriegel. Councilmember Velpula. And Mayor Ali. No here. Madam Mayor.
Mayor Ali? Okay, I guess we will move on at this point. We'll now have a moment of silence, if everybody would stand, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. And that brings us to proclamations this evening. I believe we have one proclamation that Councilman Sid Ruckriegel is going to read. And could we have Allison Unkovich from the Peoria Riverfront Museum come to the microphone? Good evening. Councilman Ruckriegel?
Can you hear me? I can't hear anything.
Mayor Ali, can you hear us? Madam Mayor?
We'll go ahead and proceed with the proclamation while our IT people try to get Mayor Ali on the phone.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Peoria is really a city of community events, and it's really one of the things that tie us together. It seems like throughout the year, we celebrate in a lot of different ways that really pull Peorians and those that call Peoria home and those that would love to call Peoria home together to be able to celebrate and recognize many of our great traditions and cultures that help make us one unified city. Several years ago, I think that there was a single action that really showed the community support and the belief in what we could be, and that was through a vote of the people for a referendum which helped support public buildings, and in this case, the Peoria Riverfront Museum. Peoria Riverfront Museum just celebrated its 10th year of operation, and I think that to all of those, we are in agreement that the success and the influence that it has had within our community has been profound, and we welcome that day that we first opened, and we welcome the day that we've celebrated 10 years. But on that 10th anniversary, and as the gift for the community for that referendum helped, I think, push our whole community forward, there's another gift that I think will help tie us together, and that is the Christmas in the Village. And we are present today inside of the person who created this, who has pulled this together, and also somebody representing the faction of where this is going to be really helping, which is our Every School initiative. And so on behalf of Mayor Ali, our mayor of Peoria, I would like to be able to read this proclamation, and then I'd like to turn it over to you for a couple of words. From the office of the mayor. Whereas the Peoria Riverfront Museum recognizes the importance of building and celebrating community, especially during the holiday season. And whereas the Peoria Riverfront Museum is proud to celebrate the first Christmas in the Village event by dedicating a 50-foot tall live community Christmas tree. And whereas the Peoria Riverfront Museum is grateful to Allison Cullinan Unkovich for championing and sharing Christmas in the Village to be held on December 3rd, 2022. And whereas beginning December 3rd and continuing through New Year's Day, the community Christmas tree will be lit and available for public viewing on Water Street. And whereas the proceeds of Christmas in the Village will benefit the Every Student Initiative by the Peoria Riverfront Museum, bringing more than 15,000 students and their families to the museum each year at no cost to them. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Rita Ali, and the City of Peoria hereby recognize the Peoria Riverfront Museum, Christmas in the Village, and Allison Cullinan Unkovich in Peoria, Illinois, dated the 22nd day of November, 2022.
Thank you. Everly and I are so honored to be here on behalf of the board, staff, and everyone at the Peoria Riverfront Museum. The vision to bring a Rockefeller tree to Peoria is really coming to fruition, and myself, as well as everyone at the museum, are so grateful for your support. I'm overwhelmed at the thought of the community gathering around the tree for the month of December, as this will be Peoria's tree. And coming in at 50 feet tall and an estimated 30,000 lights, I think we can all agree that it is going to be such a spectacular sight to see. In addition to the tree, the Peoria Riverfront Museum will also be home to our first Christmas in the Village event. This event will provide an amazing opportunity to bring our community together to take in all the magic of Christmas. The village will showcase Santa, hot chocolate, carriage rides, food trucks, holiday cocktails, carolers, nutcracker ballerinas, local vendors selling Christmas-inspired goods, and so much more. Christmas in the Village is bound to be a festive experience for the Peoria community, and it's sure to become an annual holiday tradition for years to come. As a Peoria native and a former Chicago Public Schools teacher, I am overjoyed that the proceeds from this event will benefit the museum's Every Student Initiative. Everly Davis, the manager of the Every Student Initiative, and myself are so proud of the vision of ESI. The vision is to engage every student in Central Illinois with a curricula-inspired trip to the Peoria Riverfront Museum every year. The museum has provided over 60,000 field trips since its inception, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to support this impressive program. The Every Student Initiative is the epitome of investing in Peoria's future, as well as the future of our region, and I'm so honored to be a part of this initiative. On behalf of the board, as well as everyone at the Peoria Riverfront Museum, we are so excited to bring Peoria together with the Village Experience and the spectacular Christmas tree. We can't wait to enjoy the magic of the Christmas season with our community, and we hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Rockriegel. Did you want to say something?
They have left, and we've distributed some flyers on about the tree lighting itself and about Christmas on the Village on each council member's desk. Thank you.
Well, it looks like a great event for the listening audience. Again, it'll be Saturday, December 3rd. Is that correct? And the Village opens at 2 p.m. and it's open until 8 p.m.
Yes, and the tree lighting will be the night before, December 2nd, from 5 to 7 o'clock.
Sounds great. Looking
If,
forward
if
to
you
it.
drive by now, you will see the tree stand, which is just a little taste of how big this tree is going to be. It's really amazing to see.
It's very exciting. Thank you. Now we'll move to the minutes. Councilman Euler.
Madam Chairwoman, I move to approve the minutes of the special city council meeting held on November 1st, 2022, the joint city council and town board meeting held on November 8th, 2022, and the special city council meeting held on November 15th, 2022, as printed.
Is there a second? Councilman Allen? Okay. The minutes there's been a motion to approve the minutes and a second, so we will take a vote. Cast your ballots. And I vote yes. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Okay, the vote passes. Sorry, I'm learning how to use this machine up here. There's the vote. Okay, we will move on, Madam Clerk, to the consent agenda.
22-394 is a communication from the Mayor and Corporation Council with a request to approve the declaration of local state of emergency. 22-395 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request to approve and authorize the following master services agreements for 2023 through 2025 professional engineering services for various engineering services. A, an agreement with AKRF Inc. in an amount not to exceed $750,000. B, an agreement with Baxter and Woodman Consulting Engineers in an amount not to exceed $750,000. C, an agreement with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley in an amount not to exceed $4 million. D, agreement with Dewberry Engineers, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $2 million. E, an agreement with Farnsworth Group, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $2,500,000. F, an agreement with Foth Infrastructure and Environment, LLC in an amount not to exceed $2,500,000. G, an agreement with Hanson Professional Services, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $4 million. H, an agreement with Henneman Engineering, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $750,000. I, an agreement with Herman and Associates, LLC in an amount not to exceed $750,000. J, an agreement with HR Green, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $2,500,000. K, an agreement with Hutchison Engineering, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $3,250,000. L, an agreement with Infrastructure Engineering, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $1 million. M, an agreement with Maurer Stutz, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $4 million. N, an agreement with Midwest Engineering Associates, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $2 million. O, an agreement with Millennia Professional Services of Illinois, Ltd. in an amount not to exceed $4 million. P, an agreement with Prairie Engineers in an amount not to exceed $750,000. Q, an agreement with Resource and Environmental Solutions, LLC in an amount not to exceed $750,000. R, an agreement with Symbiont Science Engineering and Construction, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $2,750,000. S, an agreement with Terra Engineering LTD in an amount not to exceed $4 million. T, an agreement with Duveno, Wade, and Mercian, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $1 million. And U, an agreement with Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $1 million. And on your desk, there are two separate handouts of agreements, master services agreements in yellow. 22-396 is a communication with a request to approve an agreement with Stark Excavating, Inc. for the Abington and Madison Pipe Culvert Replacement for $779,943.50 with an additional authorization of $116,991.50 for contingencies for a total amount of $896,935. 22-397 is a communication with a request to approve a resolution for the Mutual Aid Box Alarm System Master Agreement for the year 2022. 22-398 is a communication with a request to approve a resolution of proposed match funding for the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Planning Grant for Peoria to Chicago Passenger Rail Service Systems and Environmental Planning, with the federal funding requested to be $2,500,000 with a local match for construction no less than $500,000, with the Illinois Department of Transportation providing $250,000 and the City of Peoria providing $250,000. 22-399 is a communication with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Historic Preservation Commission to adopt an ordinance approving the designation of 942 Northeast Glen Oak Avenue as a local historic landmark. 22-400 is a communication with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class R3 single-family residential district for a short-term rental for the property located at 6525 North Talisman Terrace. 22-401 is a communication with request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class R3 single-family residential district for a short-term rental for the property located at 423 East Lakewood Avenue. And 22-402 is a communication with a request to approve the site application for a Class B restaurant 50% food liquor license with on-site consumption and retail sale of alcohol for Ardor Breads and Provisions, LLC, 301 Southwest Water, contingent upon the issuance of all appropriate permits and a certificate of occupancy with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to approve. And that concludes our consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I see, are there items to remove from consent? Councilman Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I would like to remove item 22-400, please.
400.
Yes.
Councilman Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Item 22-399.
22-399. Okay. Councilman Euler?
I had the same one.
Okay. Councilman Kelly?
398, please.
22-398. Are there any others? Is there a motion? Councilman Allen?
Move for approval.
Second. Councilman Sear is the second. Okay, we'll do a vote on the remaining items on the consent agenda. Voting is now open. Cast your ballots. And I vote yes. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved. We'll now move on to the first item that was removed. Madam Clerk?
22-398 is a communication from the city manager with a request to approve a resolution of proposed match funding for the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Planning Grant for Peoria to Chicago Passenger Rail Service Systems and Environmental Planning, with the federal funding requested to be $2,500,000, with a local match for construction no less than $500,000, with the Illinois Department of Transportation providing $250,000 and the City of Peoria providing $250,000.
I believe Councilman Kelly?
Thank you, Madam.
Oops, sorry.
Am I on? Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
Mr. Manager, I'd like to ask you what you believe might be the total expense that our city is going to be spending on this rail proposal and project.
Thank you, Councilman. This is a request for us to apply for the CRISI grant, which is part of the Comprehensive Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvement Grant, along with the state of Illinois and our partners, Peoria County and the northern communities along the Illinois River. In this grant, in the application, it requires that we would pledge a 20% funding commitment. We've talked with IDOT. IDOT is putting up $250,000. We would be matching that $250,000 if we're successful in getting the grant. If we're not successful in getting the grant, there's no dollars that would be spent by the city with this. The grant requires, it's a 20% match, so if we're able to apply for the or $500,000, we would be asking for $2 million more. So it would be $2.5 million to start the environmental engineering work. Overall, I think that we're still waiting on the guidance from the federal government on the new corridor identification program, and if there's going to be a match at all with that program. It may be a 20% match. There may be no match that goes along with it. As I've previously stated, we would certainly try to get the state to fund all of that as we move into the new corridor identification program, to limit the amount of funds that the city would have to pledge towards this. We put $250,000 in the budget for this year, and then $500,000 for next year in the budget, in the capital budget. So that's what we have identified would be the monies that we've already approved, which was our contribution of the $100,000 towards the project, coupled with this $750,000 of potential grant match for future grant applications. So at most, we're hoping it's $850,000 of local dollars going into this, if not less, as we would certainly hope that the state would pick up the tab.
Mr. Manager, it seemed to me that your estimates, while I'm sure they're correct, are for the initial stages of this whole project. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Further expenditures by the city are really very unknown, or I don't expect you to...
I might be able to help answer that.
Okay.
The state is in the process of working through rail service to the Quad Cities and rail service to Rockford. And in both of those instances, they have been driven by the state spending those dollars. It hasn't fallen to the locals to bring up any additional funds. So that's our hope, is that we'll be kind of treated in that same fashion as this progresses as we move forward through this process. Now, that started 10 years ago with both Rockford and with the Quad Cities, so it's going to take some time.
Are you aware of state money going into current Amtrak operations within the state of Illinois?
Yes. So the current route from Quincy to Chicago is funded by the state of Illinois on an operating level as well as a capital level.
Okay, and we have more than that, do we not?
There's the routes through Galesburg. There's additional dollars, but that Quincy route is funded solely by the state of Illinois in terms of that. So there is other state support that comes along for other rail throughout the state.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Madam Mayor, I pulled this because I'm inclined to vote against it. I don't know that that will carry. But I think that this may ultimately have the same result as the Rocket had. We just won't be able to put enough passengers on there. And according to current estimates, we're talking about $2 billion, not of our money, but of taxpayer money. And to me, I think the intentions are very, very good, but it seems like a boondoggle to me of very massive proportions. And so I will be voting no if anyone decides to move this item.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Kelly. Councilman Ruckriegel.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, just a question for City Manager. City Manager, if we don't proceed, do we ever get a train? Do we also, at a certain point, and I'm assuming you, City Manager, you go back and you probably update your numbers and files and data occasionally on things. In this conversation with the train that we have now, is the data or the support for this train ever relatable to a train that existed almost 2 generations ago to here?
I think it's really difficult to draw the comparison. I think that we've seen that there's really overwhelming community support for us to proceed.
Thank you. And I would say that in that community support, one of the things that really surprised me was the fact of we saw support for this not only from those out of Peoria, but also extremely inside Peoria, against all age demographics and across all zip codes throughout our city. And the one thing that I saw, at least from whenever we looked at those results, was the fact that if we don't invest the time and the energy to make something happen, then nothing ever changes. And this is a long-term plan. We don't know where this is going to go, but and I think this was said at another public meeting by another public body. We know one thing: if we don't try, we'll never get. And I think actually, Councilmember Kelly brings up a really good point. There are a lot of federal dollars that will come in to play to some community across the country. Those are going to be spent, and so rather than having them spent in Indiana, Kentucky, maybe somewhere else in Illinois. I think that what I've heard from our community is they want us to make sure that we are in the race to be able to at least consider passenger rail in the future. And is this that next step that we have to take?
This is that next step, coupled with the Corridor RD program that'll open up hopefully here at the end of the year.
Madam Mayor, because I believe in the future of Peoria, not only from a Christmas tree that is going to bring us together, but also because I believe passenger rail can help re-identify us as a community, I will be supporting this. Thank you, Madam.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that is a motion.
Is there a second? Councilman Allen gave a second. Is there further discussion? Councilman Kelly?
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to point out that over the last couple of generations, Amtrak ridership has dropped precipitously. I don't know that we're going to buck that trend. I think finally this will be shut down and it'll be billions of dollars down the drain. I am a pessimist on this. I would like, and by the way, as far as the survey is concerned, I filled out the survey. The survey said, would you like it? Yeah, I'd like it. Would you ride on it? Yeah, I'll ride on it. Et cetera. It didn't ask all the right questions, so it came out unbelievably positive. Well, as long as it doesn't cost me any money, it's okay. Well, I think it's going to cost us a lot of money. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Is there anyone else? Mayor Ali? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. Cast your ballots. And I vote aye. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Motion passes with 1 no. Councilman Kelly. Madam Clerk?
22-399 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with the recommendation from the Historic Preservation Commission to adopt an ordinance approving the designation of 942 Northeast Glen Oak Avenue as a local historic landmark.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilman Grab. Oh, I had Councilman Grab's microphone. I'm sorry. Councilman Riggenbach?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I pulled this because we do have representatives from the Peoria Historical Society that have asked for privilege of the floor. I would just want to recognize Ed Berry, longtime proponent of all things Peoria, but particularly on the historical side, and my colleague, Councilman Euler, is the immediate past president of that very board. So we were kind of racing, I think, to recognize our friends here from the society. So with the consent of the council, I'd like to call up Colleen Johnson.
Mrs. Johnson, please come to the microphone.
Well, good evening, everyone, and I wanted to thank you so much for just giving us a short minute. I understand how busy the agenda is, so I won't take too much of your time, but it came to our attention as we were working on our 2 beautiful historic museum houses that they were federally, or they were nationally landmarked, but we had skipped a step somewhere along the way, and Ed Berry was gracious enough to bring it to our attention that we had not gotten the Flanagan House locally landmarked, and it was time for us to get that passed. And it's an important step because we are Peoria, and we consider this as just as important as our national landmark. So we just wanted to take a brief moment to thank you for taking the time to read through it and to ask for your approval for that.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Johnson. You do a great job. As the executive director, and Mr. Berry, I know your longtime commitment to all the historic parts of our city, along with a lot of other things. So we thank you both for taking the time to be here and bringing this forward. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion. I'm sorry. And after the motion made by Councilman, I almost called you Ruckriegel, Councilman Riggenbach. Must be this chair up here, and seconded by Councilman Grab. Councilman Euler has a few comments to make.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'll be abstaining since I still serve on the board of this great organization that owns Peoria's oldest house at 942 Northeast Glen Oak. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment? We'll go ahead then and cast our ballots. And I vote aye. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Motion passes with 9 yeses and 1 abstention. Madam Clerk?
22-400 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class R3 single-family residential district for a short-term rental for the property located at 6525 North Talisman Terrace.
Councilman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I would like to move to defer this item to our next regular scheduled City Council meeting for December 13th due to the need for some additional due diligence to be performed. Thank you.
Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Euler. Any discussion? Go ahead and cast our ballots. And I vote aye. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Motion passes with 10 ayes. Oh, I forgot to show the results. I'm sorry. I'm just getting used to this computer system here, so bear with me. We're on item, Madam Clerk.
We are at first readings. 22-293 is a communication from the City Manager and Corporation Council with a request to receive and file a first reading of an ordinance amending Article 19, Operation of a Cannabis Business, of Chapter 18, Licenses and Miscellaneous Business Regulations of the Code of the City of Peoria.
Corporation Council, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
So I'll try to be brief. As the council knows, we've had a series of public input opportunities, both in a public meeting as well as a virtual meeting. We've taken input from the council, and staff has put together its best representation of all those inputs. I'd like to briefly summarize what we're recommending by way of action by the council. And in that, address a few of the key points that we're not including. First, we are not suggesting a limit on the number of dispensary licenses, and that was not included because of the significant public position that there should not be a limit on additional licenses. Second, there'll be additional zoning restrictions, primarily addressing three areas. We're going to reduce the 2-year period for a valid special use permit down to 1 year. We're going to require special use permits in every zoning district, which right now is not required in one of our zoning districts, and we would require a special use permit process in all districts. And we would include cannabis dispensaries with on-site consumption by way of an additional special use designation. And so those would be the primary elements going to the zoning board in the next evolution in January. We would incorporate existing state law by way of ordinance change that a dispensary cannot be located within 1,500 feet of a pre-existing dispensary unless the applicant is a social equity applicant. We would define and allow on-site consumption subject to certain building parameters. Typically, we're going to have them comply with the parameters of the smoke-free Illinois law. And we would define social equity applicants and require annual proof of social equity applicant status, and add language to strengthen the restrictions on transfer of licenses. Again, to make certain that the full ambition of the social equity opportunity is being experienced by social equity applicants. We would estimate a significant financial impact, although there is, at some point, the market will be mature and saturated. We feel there's some opportunity for additional funding increasing from licensing fees, and there's likely going to be still some additional sales tax revenue as that market grows and matures. The additional material included in your written materials for your consideration, and certainly your input on what of these aspects move forward is appreciated. I'd be happy to take questions tonight. As you know, our Deputy Corporation Counsel has taken lead on this, and she'd be happy to take your questions as well throughout the coming weeks as we approach both the zoning process and the council in December. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councilman Riggenbach.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, that's a mouthful. Thank you, Corporation Council, and we really appreciate this update. And the Assistant Corporation Counsel has done a yeoman's job in getting this to this point. Two things that I would suggest that you offer, at least as an alternative when this comes back to us for final approval. Regarding on-site consumption, as I recall, my colleagues, well, let me rephrase that. I'm totally opposed to on-site consumption, period. And I would like to see that, if not in the ordinance, at least allow us to vote on that separately. I'll be unequivocal in my opposition to that. The other item regarding the special use, reducing the 2-year period to a 1-year period, I would also suggest that we lower that to 6 months, knowing that it could take longer and that we could amend that if the situation would allow, but it's easier to allow an extension that we can never reel that back. So I would suggest that we move forward with a 6-month time frame there, and if the situation with the state licensing, et cetera, would demand longer, we could amend that on the floor at the time of the special use. So those would be my 2 comments for your consideration. Thank you.
Councilman Riggenbach. Councilman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I second many of the comments Councilmember Redenbach said. I appreciate the language in here regarding just making sure that the transfer of the social equity designations, we uphold those because, again, we want those holders to reflect the spirit of why that was passed in the first place. So I appreciate that language. I agree with Councilman Redenbach. I think 6 months is appropriate for those special site approvals. And then if someone has extenuating circumstances, they can come to the city because we know when you're trying to open up a business, things do happen. And so I want to be sensitive to that. But also I don't want us to be in a situation where we're holding placement and then we have entities that don't never materialize, and we have seen this recently. So those are my 2 comments, but I would definitely support that 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to comment on this proposed ordinance? Mayor Ali? Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, I just wanted to also agree with Councilman Riggenbach in terms of, what I heard around the horseshoe is that I think the majority was opposed to on-site consumption at this time. Perhaps that will change down the road, but from what the feedback that I received was that we're not ready to move forward with on-site consumption. So I would also want that ordinance to be adjusted, and I also agree with the 6-month review. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Move to receive and file.
Is there a second? Councilman Ruckriegel? We'll have a vote then. Cast your ballots. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
And I'm an aye also. Oh, I keep forgetting to show it. Sorry, my apologies. Madam Clerk?
22-403 is a communication from the City Manager, Corporation Counsel, and Director of Community Development with a request to receive and file a first reading of an ordinance amending Appendix A of the Unified Development Code relating to family care facilities.
Corporation Counsel?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The council is well aware from multiple communications from the legal department that Oxford houses have been operating in Peoria for some time. Our initial steps towards enforcement of our ordinances, which would have prohibited that use, met with a request for reasonable accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act as well as the Fair Housing Act. We've recommended moving forward with a set of ordinance changes to accommodate these uses and subject them to our performance uses that other family homes are subject to. Those restrictions would allow us to have inspections of the property, limit the occupancy similar to other similar uses. In our view, to avoid the major risks of litigation that were presented by enforcement of our ordinance as it sits today. So these modifications would extend what we believe to be a reasonable accommodation. These uses would be established, but they would be subject to our restrictions. Those include restrictions on square footage required per occupant. It's 120 square feet of bedroom space per 2 occupants. Would limit under the family care the total to 8, but they could not make modifications to the home in order to increase the occupancy. For instance, in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, you would be looking at a maximum of 6 occupants because there's only room for 6 people in the 3 bedrooms. So as long as those bedrooms were 120 square foot each. The maximum occupancy, though, under these in a 4-bedroom home would be 8. This would, in our view, avoid what is likely to be litigation from the Oxford houses, but would accommodate these uses within standards. I'd be happy to take any questions, but we'd ask for your consideration of this and your continuing comments, and when we take it up at our next meeting for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Corporation Counsel Hayes. Are there any questions or comments? Councilman Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Just a point of clarification, I didn't hear clearly, Mr. Corporation Counsel. Did you say these guidelines are being put in place in comparison to group homes, or did we not want to do that? I didn't hear it clearly.
So in our present ordinance, it excludes these types of uses from treatment under our family and or group home provisions. The group homes are for homes that would be in excess of 8 occupants up to 15 occupants. That is a special use process. In the family home provisions, it's a permitted use, meaning they're subject to the performance standards, but there's not a council process for approval site by site. You've approved this use in residential districts by this change, but it subjects them to the inspections. They have to register as a rental property as well, and so they'd be treated like other rental properties with this family home designation, so they'd be able to have, depending on the size of the bedrooms and how many bedrooms, up to 8 occupants on a performance use basis rather than a special use basis. All right?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilman Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
You're welcome.
I'd like to keep my remarks short, but no, I guess I don't. Anyway, Mr. Corporation Counsel, first of all, where did the number 8 come from? Is that arbitrary, or is that something in those federal statutes that you referenced?
Delineation of performance use at 8 occupants, and then a special use of beyond 8 to 15 is already in our ordinance for other uses. So we would just be including this in that set of uses.
Thank you. We have restrictions on how many bedrooms, how many square feet bedrooms versus how many residents. Do we have any restrictions on bathrooms?
No, there's not a requirement for multiple bathrooms. They have to have a full bathroom, but there's not a requirement for multiple bathrooms.
I wonder if that's a prudent further requirement.
I think that this is one of the issues that triggers the special use. So the whole goal of these federal statutes is to deal with the reality that these individuals should be treated just like any other private user of residential property, like a family. I grew up in a family with 6 kids, 2 parents, 1 full bath. There was no zoning issues related to that invaded the Hayes house. I think that the council has to be careful if we want to change our existing ordinances at this moment for this purpose, because it may well be transparent to someone wanting to challenge that, what the motivation is. But I think that if we're willing to measure the impact on all of the uses across our entire community, and there's support for a change based on factors outside of this set of facts, that we could defend that. So that is an issue that we could discuss. But at this moment, with regard to this, without that support, we would be inviting litigation, just similar to not making a change at all.
Do we have any such bathroom requirements on standard rental property?
I don't know the answer to that question, and I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you. And can we, I don't know if it's wise, but can we require these homes to have professional supervision? The Oxford House model is that the residents, or whatever we call them, run their houses democratically with no professional input. And oftentimes you have, I mean, we're not allowed to discriminate on drug usage or drug history, or, you know, we're not allowed to discriminate on a lot of these things. Can we require professional supervision?
In my view, if we are going to focus any kind of regulation on the Oxford-style houses alone.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
But on the group homes as a class, the council, without discrimination, is free to act and zone as they see fit. But I think that we will find that some of these group homes aren't amenable to that type of restriction. And so we run into this problem of further classifying and reducing out, separating out uses. And as we do that, we get more and more likely to have a class that's focused on these protected classes. And that's where we run afoul of the protections of the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Fair Housing Act. I'm not prepared to say it would be impossible, but it's difficult for me to understand how we could impose that in our present system. And I suspect it would be exceedingly difficult to develop a classification that would work under all the restrictions we're under to achieve that outcome.
I would say part of that would be, in my mind, is that people who are already here without supervision would be, or facilities that are already here without supervision would have to be grandfathered. But it seems to me reasonable in these settings to have professional supervision, and I may be wrong about that, but there are a lot of neighborhoods that are afraid, and so the more, okay, so thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
You're welcome, Councilman Kelly. Councilman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Corporation Counsel Hayes, do we have any ability to require any of these type of entities, whether it's a group home or a family care facility or whatever the category is, to be required to at least establish a connection with the existing homeowner association or the neighborhood association that exists in the neighborhood that they will be entering, just to establish a rapport, just to maybe address some of the misnomers that could be that may exist around the facility or the home that is going into there. So that way we can alleviate maybe some of the assumptions, and it might address some of the anxiety that exists from our residents when these homes are coming into the neighborhoods, and it's just the fear of the unknown. And so I don't know if we have the ability to do that, but that would be something that I would suggest, because I believe that would alleviate a lot of the anxiety and some of the misnomers that some of our residents have when these enter our neighborhoods.
Corporation Counsel.
I could see an opportunity for Oxford House itself to do some community outreach. I don't know that we can impose that by ordinance, but I think it would be something that we could make that invitation to Oxford House to see if they'd be willing to establish that. I think establishing that requirement by ordinance becomes a little bit difficult. I would reiterate that these entities will be registering with our rental properties registry. So there'll be clear, not just a clear delineation of the use through our permitting process, but also through the rental registry.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Is there a motion? Councilman Allen?
I move to receive and file.
Seconded by Councilman Sear. We'll move to vote, cast our ballots. And I vote yes. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We're at regular business. 22-404 is a communication from the City Manager and Finance Director Comptroller with a request for a discussion on the Peoria Civic Center Bridge Loan request.
All right. Go ahead.
I will take it from here. The Peoria Civic Center was the recipient of a $25 million grant from the DCEO. That grant allows them to do numerous capital projects throughout the building, including cooling tower work, parking lot work, and roof work, some of which has already occurred. The grant is handled on a reimbursement basis by DCEO, which means the Civic Center has to front the payments for those capital expenditures. The request from the Civic Center is for a temporary short-term bridge loan or line of credit for the city to assist in being able to make those payments to the contractors so that they can meet those requirements to put in the reimbursement. To date, in terms of total obligations, the Civic Center has about $3.4 million in obligations for capital, $1.6 million of which they have already paid, and $1.8 million that's coming due very soon. So the request would be for the council to consider a short-term bridge loan to help with those items so that they are able to facilitate that capital. And I'm available if there's any questions.
Are there any questions? Thank you. Any comments? Councilman Sear.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Just a couple. I'm a little confused about this request. I've been sitting this chair for 6 years now. Tell us, I guess, about reimbursable. I've never seen a grant where it was on the reimbursable condition.
Yeah, so there are grants out there where, in essence, you as the entity have to make all the payments up front. We run into this a lot with a lot of our DCEO grants, that we have to forward pay for all of our capital and then request the reimbursement of those costs once the work is completed. So that's what this is for them.
What is the amount of the line of credit?
So the line of credit as it would sit, and this could be a discussion obviously with council, would be the $25 million. However, the intention would be that the line of credit would only be equal to the amounts that they have paid on a quarterly basis, because the intention of the Civic Center would be to do their quarterly reimbursement, which they will be allowed to do under the grant. And once they receive that funding from DCEO, they will pay back the city for that amount. In discussions with DCEO, they are anticipating traditionally about a 2 to 4 week turnaround in terms of those payments being made to them.
So if I understand correctly what you just said, they put up their own capital, about $1.8 million so far?
$1.6 million so far, and then $1.8 million of liabilities.
Okay, and so how long does it take to get reimbursed?
So DCO says 2 to 4 weeks is what the plan is. My belief is, just from my kind of what I've seen in the past, it can be anywhere from month to 2 months before you're going to potentially see reimbursement once you put in your request. So that, I think, is normally the time frame.
How long would it take them to spend the $25 million?
I believe and we have some representatives actually from the Civic Center here that might be better able to answer that question than I'm able to.
I believe we have Mr. Bob Gates, who's the attorney for the Civic Center, correct?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you and happy Thanksgiving in advance. Also with me is our chairwoman, Yvonne Greer, and our treasurer, Carrie Ross. We expect that our capital projects will be both from this year, and a bulk will be next year and the year after. So the DCO grant really goes through October of next year, and we expect the bulk of the capital projects to be complete and begin by then.
And these funds come from our general fund?
Correct. They would just be from our general fund as a short-term loan, and obviously once we got the money back, it would go back into our general fund.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Councilman Sear. Thank you, Mr. Gates. Are there any other questions or comments? Is there a motion? Councilman Riggenbach moves to approve, and Councilwoman Jackson seconds. Go ahead and cast our ballots. I vote aye. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk?
22-405 is a communication from the city manager with a request to approve a lease agreement with Childers Eatery for the use of the Gateway building.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'm here representing the Economic Development Department tonight. Last year this time we did a request for proposals for interest in leasing our Gateway building for the third floor ballroom area for commercial use. We had one responsive vendor, and that was Childers Restaurant. So I am here to very ecstatically inform you that we have come to an agreement with Childers to lease the third floor of the Gateway for their banquet facility as a secondary banquet facility. This would be a 5-year lease that will commence as soon as we're able to sign the dotted line. They'll be able to build out the space, and we hopefully will see some type of activity happening in the Gateway again on the third floor that will now be available for leasing through the Childers Restaurant Company. As for the city, we will be getting it will be a lease agreement, so we will be receiving compensation for that lease agreement, as it will be a $2,500 per month minimum, up to 8% gross maximum. And so the goal is, hopefully, as community members start hearing that the Gateway is reopened for public use, hosting through Childers, we will begin to see revenue come back through that building again for the city, as well as reinvigorate the space as we are trying to look at our downtown, as this is another example of revitalizing our downtown, especially at the riverfront. What does this mean for us as the city? We will be able to still have access to the space working with Childers to ensure that if we need it for some public use, we will be able to do so on the days that they have available that are not blacked out. In addition to that, we have worked with the Park District to ensure that days that they need to utilize the third floor for special events, that they will too have access to that space. And so that is also reflected in our agreement. We will be able to also use the second floor as well for additional purposes as it relates to meetings or other gatherings that's necessary for the Park District. Another added to the lease that we should be making the council aware of is that Gateway will be able, the Childers will be able to advertise using their brand in the facility. So we are looking at design that the city will have to approve prior to execution of any type of build out within the space. So anything as it relates to the signage as well as any design or changes in the building, which of course, if many of you have recently visited, there are some wonderful green curtains that I think probably were very popular back in the late 80s, 90s, that needs to be updated. So we are looking to make some modifications to that. The city has also said that we will invest in that space by making some changes within the third floor restroom, as well as with our AV system to make sure it accommodates the needs of Childers Restaurant. I would like to just want to acknowledge my staff in economic development for being the ones to help move this process along, as well as our department and the law department. Really appreciate the law department staff for their support and help. And I would love to thank our council member, Councilman Gray, for assisting me as I'm new to the community and learn a lot about Childers and what they're meaning for our organization and for the city. So I will hand it over to Councilman Gray if you have any additional questions for me or comments to make to the council.
Thank you. Councilman Grab.
Well, I think this represents a pattern of this council approving projects that allow us to more fully utilize assets that belong to our taxpayers. We recently approved additional utilization of the Rock Island Depot, the River Station building, and now the beautiful Gateway building that sits athwart the Murray Baker Interstate 74 bridge. We're making a lot of repairs to it, and we, in essence, are getting the building developed by a family whose name I think all of us have heard if we've been in the Peoria area for very long, the Childers family. And tonight we have both Eddie Childers here, raise your hand, and Ryan toward the back. And I thank them very much for continuing to invest in the Peoria community. And Manager Urick, I have to give Kimberly Richardson and her staff an A+ on this. And I'd move to approve as outlined.
Is there a second? Councilman Kelly with the second. Further discussion, Councilman Riggenbach.
Pro Tem, this is an exciting thing to have come before us, and I think we've all seen the Gateway building as a blessing and a curse in so many levels and so many different ways. So, Assistant City Manager Richardson, great job, and I particularly am pleased to see that this agreement respects the city's use of the third floor as well as the Park District being able to use that for special events. This is one thing I remember as we've worked to utilize this building in the past was that they always complained about the kitchen space being so small. So, Ryan, I'll be reaching out to you later to see how you're going to make that kitchen work. So, welcome to the riverfront. We're glad to see you here, and I'll definitely be supporting this as well. Thank you.
So, Councilmember, for clarification, there's no kitchen. It's a warming space.
Okay.
So they will still have to cook off-site, unfortunately.
Oh, that's too bad.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Riggenbach. Councilman Sear.
Mayor Pro Tem, I want to say thank you to my colleague, Mr. Graham, for taking this project through the finish line. Since I've been working with Childers for many months on this, and it took a long time to get through, but I want to thank you for getting involved and see it through. So thank you for your work on this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Ruckriegel.
I'm going to echo those responses, and thank you as well to the Economic Development Department for really looking at this, and for Councilmember Grab. And I think you mentioned it, but you and I talked a little bit, and just want to reiterate that a lot of people ask about the outside, and that's going to be one of the things that it's going to be refreshed, but it's going to look similar. We're not taking that great look that everybody's looking for away. It's just going to be refreshed, and I think people look forward to that as well. And how exciting that we're going to be able to see one of our Peoria-owned brands, one that we're extremely special at, right there at the river. Great. Thank you very much for all of your hard work.
Thank you. Councilman Euler.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I think we've all seen the positive impact the Childers family has had all over the city of Peoria, from University Street, my preferred location, Dries Lane, Junction City, Grand Prairie, and now welcome downtown. We look forward to working with you. Thank you for your commitment to the city of Peoria, staying here, investing here, and continuing to improve the restaurant scene in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I wish to piggyback on the comments thus far. I think this is wonderful. I think that's a wonderful asset that our city has, and it's going to be put to good use. The Childers family they do such a wonderful job. I was not clear. I think your voice dropped a little bit, Madam Assistant City Manager. I understand we're in charge of updating infrastructure of the building. Who's responsible for the build out?
So Childers would be responsible for the build out with our approval of design.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Anyone else? Mayor Ali? I just want to take a minute. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Mayor.
Enthusiastically support this. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also enthusiastically support, I think the whole council does. Thank you, Mrs. Richardson, and thank you to the Childers family for all your investment and for coming on down to the riverfront. We look forward to having you there. We'll go ahead and cast our ballots. Aye. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk?
22-406 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class R2 single-family residential district for a short-term rental for the property located at 5525 North Briarcrest Court, Peoria, Illinois.
Councilman Riggenbach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. This might be a little out of the ordinary, but I see a couple of my neighbors, and I live at 5523 North Briarcrest Court, just for the record. And I see a couple of my neighbors, and they did not ask for privilege of the floor, but I just wondered if we could extend that opportunity to them. If anybody has any comments.
Anyone in the audience who would like to come forward and speak on this item? Just come on up to the microphone. And then before you start, state your name and address, please.
Yes. Joseph Baumgartner, 5511 Briarcrest Court. I live 2 doors from Tim and 3 doors from the property in question. I did send a note out to all the council people and the mayor regarding the situation on Briarcrest Court. It's a cul-de-sac, 9 homes. The property that's requesting the variance is at the end of the cul-de-sac. And we have children, we have high school students, we have college students that all live with their families on this street of 9 homes. There's only one way in and one way out. And again, the property in question is at the end of this cul-de-sac. So I'm asking the councilman to deny this request. And after listening to your lawyer here and Mr. Kelly about bathrooms, I don't know as you have an ordinance about bathrooms that would qualify for B&B. So I came from a family, I had 4 sisters and me, and we only had 1 bathroom. And if I got there last, wasn't much toilet paper left. So anyway, thank you for your time. And I think, if anything, I was disappointed in Tim. He did not come down or call a meeting for these 7 families to let us know what was going on, nor the homeowner didn't give us any warning. And during this time period before she asked for the variance, she was renting the place out, and I saw 6, 7 cars in her driveway. So I don't know how many people were there. I didn't see many females. I saw a lot of men, and I saw a lot of dogs. And in addition to that, she has a motor home that's parked in her driveway 24/7. And in addition, like I said, she's at the end of the cul-de-sac, and she only has 1 parking spot that would be available on the street. So I asked you to deny. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the council who would like to make a comment? Or, I'm sorry, were there more people out there?
The petitioner is also here if she would like to.
Come down to the microphone.
Hello, Council. My name is Stephanie Theobald. I am the homeowner of 5525 North Briarcrest Court. I've been the homeowner since 2014. This is my 2nd home in Peoria. I have chosen to live in Peoria a 2nd time by purchasing a 2nd home in 2014, where many people would prefer to live elsewhere, but I prefer to live in Peoria. I also prefer to be able to take advantage of the opportunity before me to apply for the short-term rental license. So as a single person, while I am out traveling and enjoying my time with my loved ones and friends just as freely as my neighbors do when they invite people to their homes, and I do not question who is at their homes, and when my house is empty, then I am extending that opportunity as a business under the ordinance that the city has laid before us. I keep my residence nice. I've been asked by neighbors close to me to even if their friends can stay there. So I do not feel that my one neighbor in particular's comments that were shared here earlier are reflective of the entire neighborhood, although I do understand the concerns, as I too have been a victim of crime in Peoria, even at the house where I live at now. But that's why I have an alarm system and a dog. And also, just as an additional comment on the Airbnbs, I do travel with my pet in my RV, so when I do travel away from Peoria, I take my RV and my dog, and it's a lot easier for us to travel because a lot of hotels do not, accommodate. Airbnbs do accommodate a lot of pets, which I do. So that's an additional service that my property would provide to people that have come. And yes, before I knew all the rules, I was operating without my special request license, and some of those folks have spent their money at Weaver Ridge, out at Louisville Slaughter Park. They have come to visit their students at Bradley University, and I've even had a wedding and a funeral. So there's plenty of opportunity in Peoria, and I would like to see Peoria move forward in that direction of opportunity, and I'd like to be a part of that. And I'm a good citizen, and I should be able to take advantage of that opportunity as anyone else. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councilman Riggenbach?
Thank you again. And just for those who don't tune in every week, the council spent about a year deliberating the process for these short-term rentals. This wasn't something that we adopted lightly. It's something that we've even tweaked since the initial approval of it. One thing I think is important to note about Ms. Theobald's application, and unfortunately there has been a lot of accusations on social media and some things that are just plain not true, but she lives there. And when people say that, you know, they're concerned about who's going to be coming and going, well, I would think that she's going to have the highest standard of any short-term rental operator, because on Sunday night or Monday morning, she's going to come back to her own home and live there. So I think this is a little different situation than somebody that's just buying a property as an investment, because she is invested in the neighborhood. She is one of those 9 homeowners on the street. And, you know, I think that's something that is worthy of consideration, as well as the fact that the standards we have for STRs, short-term rentals, is so different than if you have a long-term rental. We all know of problems in the rental market with absentee landlords, and, you know, we don't have to get into that. So to have somebody who's actually living there, committed to Peoria, I think speaks highly of what she's proposing. Living on a cul-de-sac obviously creates challenges, and whether it was the right thing to do or not, she has been renting it throughout the summer. And I've shared with some of my colleagues the fact that I've introduced myself, sorry, Stephanie, to some of your renters. And there was a couple of guys with their kids that came to town for the Frisbee golf tournament, and they were from Maine. One weekend, there was a couple guys for a similar type sporting event, and they were from Ohio. Then there was a group of guys here for, a bachelor party. And I say that because I am literally the closest house to the subject property. And I went over to talk to these guys. They offered me a beer, but we did not hear a peep out of them that night when they came back from Big Al's or wherever they were. So I think a lot of the concerns that people have are stereotypes. I do recognize the parking concern, though, and I will be moving to approve this with an amendment that there will be no on-street parking allowed. This driveway is quite large, and Stephanie probably rues that day when she pays her stormwater utility bill, but she does have a big parking pad that would allow for adequate parking, so I would amend this to no on-street parking. I did speak to the HOA president of Northmore Hills, and she said that, you know, this is the first one in the neighborhood, and no, we're approving one single one, not 7, as some people have been led to believe. But the HOA did tell me that they will be exploring amending their covenants not to allow future expansion of short-term rentals in the neighborhood. So we have the holidays and whatnot, and I don't think there's any applications, but Steph, this one would be grandfathered, of course, but there would be no further STRs allowed if these covenants are adopted by the homeowners. As a councilman who's been a consistent supporter of this new, I almost said technology, of this new mode of residency, I think it would be the height of hypocrisy for me to vote against it when it's literally in my backyard. So with that said, I would move for approval.
With the amendment.
With the amendment of no on-street parking.
Is there a second? Councilman Kelly? Further discussion? Oh, are you a neighbor that would like to speak? Do you want to come up to the microphone? Are you? Well, ma'am, we don't have questions back and forth during council. I can give you the privilege of the floor because we did for other residents. If you'd like to come up to the microphone and make a comment. Yes, but you need to come to the microphone and state your name, please.
Joyce Steinbach, 5519 North Briarcrest Court. I'm wondering if there is a problem with the property and the renters, can this be then denied on a further basis, or is it permanent now that it's made a short-term resident?
And like I said, you can make that comment, and then I can actually have Corporation Counsel address that in a moment after you're done making your comment. Do you have any other comments?
As I say, 35 years ago, I bought a house on a nice, quiet court. And now being alone, I no longer have the protection of the nice, quiet court because I have people who are renting on a short term who are on their honor. There's no property, nobody there to supervise, and people do not always tell the truth on an application. This is what my question is.
Okay, thank you. Corporation Counsel Hayes, can you address that real quick?
Special use permits are subject to revocation for violation of their terms. There's also nuisance actions that could be brought if property becomes a nuisance. So two different elements of types of offenses might result in a revocation of the special use permit or some sort of corrective issued by a court on a nuisance action.
Thank you. Is there, I'm sorry, is there more discussion? Councilman Riggenbach.
I just wanted to add, and the special use terminates if Ms. Theobald would sell the property. These are restricted to the current owner only.
That's a good point to make. I believe we have a motion on the floor, and there's been a second. Is there any other discussion from the council? Mayor Ali?
No comment.
Okay, I'd just like to make a comment. Part of the reason why I pushed so hard to set up a special use permit requirement for these short-term rentals was to make sure that the neighbors could voice their concerns at both the zoning commission and to the city council, and so that they had a voice and that we would listen to them before any of these short-term rentals were approved. Besides the comments that were made here tonight, I've received a number of other emails, and I do have concerns, though I'd like to defer to Councilman Riggenbach. I know he's a neighbor there, but it's such a small area. I do not support, and I will be voting against it based on the concerns that the other homeowners in that small cul-de-sac of 9 homes have, so I'll be voting against. Councilman Grab.
Riggenbach, is there a recreational vehicle on premise for this address?
Yes, the woman, Ms. Theobald, does own a RV.
Where would that go then? Does that go on the street if you're going to free up the pad for parking as per your addendum there?
That would really be up to the owner of it. I think it's important to note that in the past, and this is the stuff that really has, I don't think, germane, but I've always seen her leave on a Friday afternoon in the RV, and then the people would come in for the weekend, and then she would come back. So I don't care if she leaves it there. I talked to the HOA if there's any covenants against parking an RV in your driveway, and they didn't think there was, but they were going to explore that a little deeper. But there is no on-street parking going to be allowed. So if she leaves her RV in the driveway, that will limit the number of cars that can be there. So that would be something that having the councilman next door and a police sergeant on the street, I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on this property.
Well, Councilman Riggenbach, I just want to commend you for your consistency, consistently supporting these. I've used a different approach on a case-by-case basis, and I just can't support this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Grab. Are there any other comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and cast our votes. I vote nay. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
The motion passes with 2 nays, Councilman Jensen and Councilman Grab. Madam Clerk?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
could. I'm going to need the indulgence of the council on a matter. One of the members needs to abstain from a matter we considered and passed earlier. So I'd like to invite a motion to reconsider item 22405, which was the approval of the Childers lease, so that member then can abstain from the vote. So could I invite that motion from one of the members?
Councilman Euler, are you making that motion?
Move to reconsider.
Is there a second? Councilman Allen? Okay, so the motion before us is to reconsider the approval of the lease agreement between the City of Peoria and the Childers Banquet and Catering Center and Company for the use of the Gateway Building located at 200 Northeast Water Street. Correct? Is
Yes,
there any
ma'am.
discussion? Now, this is on a motion to reconsider that vote.
Yes.
Councilman Kelly?
The item under discussion right now is whether or not we're going to reconsider it,
Correct.
not the merits of the reconsideration.
Correct. Are we ready to vote? Okay. Right now, I got to clear the tally. We'll open up votes on the motion to reconsider item 22-405. So if you're in favor of reconsidering that motion, vote yes. I vote yes. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Allen? And Euler, there's no vote. Okay. Motion carries. Now we will be back at item 22-405. Madam Clerk?
(22-405) is the communication from the city manager with a request to approve a lease agreement with Childers Eatery for the use of the Gateway Building.
Councilman Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I need to abstain for having a personal business relationship with the Childers.
Okay, so noted. Is there a motion on the floor? Councilman Grab moves to approve. Councilman Riggenbach seconds. I'll open up the voting. Cast your ballots. Vote aye. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Motion carries with 1 abstention for Councilman Sear. Madam Clerk?
We are at 22-407, a communication from the city manager and assistant city manager with a request for the following. A, to adopt an ordinance to authorize the establishment of a tax increment financing interested parties registries and adopt such registries for the purpose Medina Plains Allen Road Business Park Tax Increment Financing District, and B, to adopt an ordinance to establish a date for a public hearing for the proposed Medina Plains Allen Road Business Park Tax Increment Financing District to be held on January 10th, 2023 at 6 p.m.
City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. The item in front of you this evening is the procedural actions that we need to take to establish a new TIF district inside the city of Peoria that would be the Medina Plains, Allen Road Business Park Tax Increment Financing District. We've sent everyone the link to the proposed TIF plan as well as the map of the properties. As you know, the city invested in our growth cell strategies going back into the mid-90s, where we financed the investment of sewer infrastructure. One of those areas was Growth Cell 2, also known as Medina Plains. This is really the area inside of Route 6, so it would be south of Route 6 to the north. It would be the area west of Allen Road, and it would be east of Radnor Road and north of Kellogg Golf Course. So this area, we financed the sewer lines in this area, but we haven't seen much industrial development. In addition, Pioneer Industrial Park is almost 40 some odd years old now at this point in time, and it's showing its age, and it shows some need for some care and some treatment. So what we would have proposed is to establish a TIF district that would encompass portions of the Pioneer Industrial Park and this area of Growth Cell 2 in order to facilitate industrial and commercial development in these areas. There's some properties that are accepted from this that have been developed that are out. We've just considered those. For example, the Walmart and the Menards along Allen Road are not included in this TIF district, as well as other properties that have been improved. So it would be the process here tonight is item A establishes the interested parties registry where people can sign up to get information about the process. Item B would then set the public hearing for January 10th, 2023, with a plan that we would move ahead for adoption on January 24th of 2023. We would have a hearing in front of the Joint Review Board on December 15th. And then our hope would be that we would be able to proceed. The Joint Review Board is the meeting of all the taxing bodies that would be affected by this as well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councilman Sear.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager. This is a tremendous opportunity for the 5th District as you fly at night above the city of Peoria and in the 5th District. This is the only dark area left we have in the 5th District, and this is just I believe the 5th District and the growth cell that's been developed since the late 1990s has been a tremendous success for Peoria, and this is the next step for the growth right here in Peoria in the 5th District. So I would appreciate greatly your support, and I move to adopt. I don't know if we need two motion, Madam Clerk, or not, but I'll start with A. Move to adopt this ordinance, letter A. Thank you.
And I think Councilman Ruckriegel is a second. Okay. Councilman Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Interim Mayor. Mr. Manager, I did not see. How did you send this map out? In email?
We sent the link to the website that this is. We hired our consulting firm to do this work, and then we sent the link to you out. It was last week, I think, that was sent out to the council from our assistant city manager.
Well, I must have deleted it. I don't know. I would have appreciated it in our packet. While I was looking, you were describing it, so I missed it. Would you mind going through it again, what the boundaries are on this?
So in general terms, the boundary of this TIF district would, from the west, it would be Radnor Road. In the north, it would be Route 6. In the east, it would be Allen Road until you got to the railroad line that runs into Pioneer Park, and then that runs straight over to the Rock Island Greenway, comes down to Pioneer Parkway, and then comes back to the northern border of the city, because some of that land is not currently in the city as we speak. We've Council adopted at our last meeting. You approved the annexation of the rail lines into the city. There is a pending annexation of one of the parcels that will be coming into the city. It'll be up for your consideration on December 13th.
Okay, thank you. That makes it clearer, at least for me. Supposedly we get development happening there. What will TIF funds, as you see it now, what will TIF funds be used for?
Well, predominantly for public and private improvements. Obviously, there's the developer improvements that would be needed on the private side. On the public side, it would be the infrastructure needs. We know that we have discussed the extension of Pioneer Parkway. The state has $42 million set aside for the interchange of Pioneer Parkway at Route 6. This would, potentially be a funding source for some of the local dollars that we would need for that. There is also the interior streets that we would need to run, for example, Town Line and extending Town Line to Radnor Road, extending Altorfer to Radnor Road. Those would be examples of streets that we would need to improve inside the industrial park as well.
Okay, the thing I was most interested in is the extension of Pioneer Parkway. But I don't think you would anticipate that, I don't know, that it's going to cover our share of that.
We have applied for a U.S. Department of Transportation mega grant.
Yes, I'm aware of that. Right. I'm just talking about the TIF funds.
It's possible, depending on the amount of industrial development that we get, that it could help to support a good chunk of the local share that we would need.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome. Any other comments? Got a motion on the floor and a second. Cast your ballots. I vote aye. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We need a vote on item B.
Okay. Councilman Sear?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, item number 22-407B, move to adopt the ordinance. Thank you.
And Councilman Allen, is that a second? Councilman Allen is the second. Any discussion? Okay, go ahead and cast your ballots. I vote aye. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Councilman Allen? Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk?
We are at unfinished business. 22-371 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to concur with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance amending existing special use in a Class C2 large-scale commercial district to allow an adult-use cannabis dispensary for the property located at 7628 North Route 91, which includes properties located at 7618 North Route 91, 7708 North Route 91, 7716 North Route 91, 7806 North Route 91, and 7810 North Route 91, commonly known as the Prairie Crossing Shopping Center.
Councilman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. We deferred this particular item for a couple weeks as we were looking to do some additional due diligence, and I think it was important. We've learned a lot in this space, especially when it came to some other special uses that were approved. We learned that some have came off the board, including the one off University. We learned that the one off Brandywine is still kind of in limbo, and so we know, kind of what we have when it comes to these existing licenses and what we could have. And so I'm actually grateful for the deferral because I think it allows us to have a little bit more clarity. We had a good discussion today, first read of what our potential ordinance will look like moving forward. And I think that's important as we look to craft our strategy around recreational marijuana moving forward. This particular site, again, has been in the queue for a while. It has passed all of the necessary obstacles in order to be considered for site approval. So I would like to make a motion for approval. Thank you.
Is there a second? Is there, oh, sorry, Councilman Euler. Is there any further discussion? All right, we'll cast our ballots. I vote aye. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Looks like the motion carries with one nay. Councilman Sear. Madam Clerk?
We are at 22-393, a communication from the City Manager and Corporation Council with a request for the following. A, to reconsider a resolution adopting the 2023 revised budget for the City of Peoria, and B, to approve a resolution adopting the 2023 revised budget for the City of Peoria. And on your desk, there is revised communication on yellow, and then there is a handout as well on white for motions to consider.
Councilman Grab?
Consider that resolution adopting the 2023 revised budget because we didn't have a sufficient number of votes last time.
Thank you, Councilman Grab. Is there a second? Councilman Allen? Is there any discussion? Mayor Ali? Okay, we'll go ahead, since there's no lights flashing, and cast our ballots. This is on the motion to reconsider the resolution to adopt the budget. I vote aye. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We are now, Madam Clerk?
We are now at item B, approve a resolution adopting the 2023 revised budget.
Is there a motion? Councilman Grab?
Move to approve that resolution for the 2023 revised budget for the City of Peoria. Move to adopt.
Seconded by Councilman Allen. Is there any discussion? Councilman Sear?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We all have on our desk, I believe, a new resolution, and maybe Mr. Urick, our city manager, can take it from there, please.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Councilman. Yes, there's a proposed yellow sheeted resolution on your desk with a proposed motion to consider. At the request of Councilman Sear, he asked if we put something together that would reduce the capital budget by $1.2 million in 2023, and then the city would then have a balanced budget for 2023. So the project that was identified is in the 5th District. It is the Deerbrook Green Street project. This would, the action in the proposed motion would be to reduce the spend in 2023, include that spend in 2024 of $1.2 million. This comes out of the stormwater utility funds. The project is slated for design work in the first part of 2023, with construction moving into the fall of 2023, possibly even into the spring of 2024. And so this was just prepared for council to consider. With this amendment, you would then, in essence, for 2023, have a balanced budget with some dollars, additional dollars. I think $1,297 going into reserves.
Okay, so are you making a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor to approve the 2023 revised budget? Yeah, sorry.
Is it on? Okay. I want to, first of all, this happened today because as a financial advisor, it's impossible for me to vote for a budget, a balanced budget, when we don't have a zero balance. What does that mean? Make sure that everybody understand that's listening to us is right now the current budget, we're looking at spending $266 million with revenues of about, let's say, $265 million. There is a gap. We're spending more money that we're taking in by $1.2 million. And I love the budget this year. This year is a good budget. It's the best budget I've been part of the last 6 years. I understand that I cannot get everything I want. But one thing I want to make sure before I make this motion, Mr. Manager, because I just heard something different. Tell me about the timetable for my constituent that are listening from Deerbrook right now. I want to make sure the timetable is exactly what we talked about, because my understanding is the timetable was going to stay the same, but we'll probably be late a little bit. Right now it was supposed to be done in October. We'll probably be done in November or December, with the bill coming in 30 days later, which means we would pay in 2024. Is that correct?
No, that's correct. I think that as the Public Works team looked at it, that's the time frame that they were looking at for this project.
So we're still going to do redo the road. The timetable stays pretty much the same. We'll probably be late a little bit, but all we're saying is it should be done next November, December, and we will just pay it in 2024.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that was very clear to my constituent. So I do make the motion because I do want a balanced budget to amend, to accept this proposal here.
Is there a second to the amendment? Councilman Riggenbach. Is there further discussion on the motion to amend the revised budget? Are the lights that are up, are those to talk about? I have several people waiting before Councilman Grab. Are those lights to talk on the motion to amend the revised budget? I think Councilman Ruckriegel was first.
Since this is a motion to amend the complete budget, I'll be abstaining from this vote and a vote on the full budget with a conflict of interest, as was stated at the last meeting on the budget.
Is there any other comments on the motion to amend? Councilman Grab? No comment on the motion to amend. Okay, because I want to take care of that first. Councilman Kelly, is your light on the motion to amend?
I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
I thought the motion should be to approve a resolution adopting the 2023 revised budget.
But my understanding is then we had a motion to amend that motion.
Yeah, except the revised budget includes this $1.2 million.
Oh, this is an amendment to.
Oh, that's the old budget.
Correct. So there was a motion on the floor made to approve the budget by Councilman Grab.
Okay, the only comment I have on the amended budget is I think it's a poor choice of something to cut. Those people have been waiting a long, long time. But thank you.
Okay, if I could comment, my understanding is we're not cutting it, we're just postponing the time frame of when we pay for it to next year's budget. Is there any other comments on the amendment to the motion to approve the revised budget? Councilman Grab? Okay. We'll go ahead then and cast our votes on the motion to amend the motion to approve a resolution adopting the 2023 revised budget. Cast your ballots. Councilman Kelly, you need to vote. Voting on a motion to amend the motion to adopt the revised budget to include the change in the time frame of the payment of that infrastructure work. I vote aye. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Motion carries with one abstention and one no by Councilman Euler. Okay, now we're at, Madam Clerk.
Now we are at the motion to approve the budget as amended.
And that's been, oh, sorry, we'll go ahead and have discussion. Councilman Allen.
I move for approval.
Is there a second? Councilman Jackson seconded it. Comments? Councilman Grab.
You know, I would like us just to think for a moment or two about what we were looking at in March of 2020. We had become, whether we wanted to be or not, pandemic counselors. We were presiding over a city in deep crisis. We gutted spending in so many different areas, including infrastructure. We didn't have adequate funds for public safety. Here we are, 2022. We endured the pandemic. We're presiding over a historic time of trying to heal the economy that was so horribly ravaged by a once-in-a-century pandemic. Tonight is a good night. We weathered the storm, and I can't be any happier to cast my ballot for this budget.
Thank you, Councilman Grab. Councilman Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Interim Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem. Sorry. First of all, I applaud, I guess, Councilman Sear for speaking with the manager to get us to a balanced budget, because I think that was an easy fix, and I'm glad we did it. We are balanced now. And that took away another council person's objection to the prior budget, I believe. I still am frustrated with the fact that we have record, by a long shot, record organic revenue coming in here. That is local revenue. And yet we can't figure out a way to make some different kinds of investments into the city that would perhaps have the effect of raising our assessed value. It's just very frustrating to me. What we're doing with this budget, it seems to me, is what we've always done on somewhat of steroids. And we have a chart or graph that is shown to us that we're going to be underwater in 4 or 5 years. So I'll be voting no. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Any other comments? One comment I just want to make. Those of you who've been listening or watching the movies have been advocating that we spend more money for sidewalks in the older neighborhoods in conjunction with the money we hope to get from Representative Sherry Bustos's earmark that she's put aside for sidewalks in 61605. So the city manager and I had a discussion today, and I'd like him to address what our plan is to get additional funding and that additional work done in this next year. City manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. One of the points that we discussed is that we're really not clear if we're going to see Congress acting on the earmarks, and so we know that there may be some grant funds that we've identified in the budget here that we may have to pull back out. But we also did discuss that there may be some opportunities for us to revisit in the first quarter of the year the capital budget as we start to see where some of our revenues actually finish the year. And so there may be an opportunity for us to really look at sidewalks at that point in time and see how we come up with a strategy. We'll know more then by obviously by January when the new Congress is seated, whether this current Congress is actually acting on spending bills that they need to by the end of December. So hopefully we'll see that they are moving and that those earmarks are still in the budget, but that's something that we'll have to kind of wait and see. We should have more clarity in early January.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Mayor Ali?
I enthusiastically support.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead then and cast our ballots. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Sear.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I need to, as I listened to my colleagues the last many months about their frustration about the budget, where the money's supposed to go and what our priority is supposed to be, I have to say tonight that I will be supporting the budget. I mean, I think it's a good budget. It's definitely not perfect. But there's so many frustrations out there from us and from our city manager and from the directors, because this is now the third time and the last time, because I don't think we'll have an opportunity anymore for this group to stay together. But we went 2 full years and 2 budget now. We're going to hopefully approve a budget tonight, $266 million, without having any strategic planning session, so that we, as a group, we don't know what our priorities are. There's just no current vision and current mission statement for 2 years now. And our directors, different departments have been asking for that. They're asking for directions all the time. My constituent, as late as last Saturday, I was with a group of a homeowner association, and they're asking me what our priorities are. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what my priorities are for the 5th District, but as a group, I don't have an answer. So this is the third time, and I'll never bring it up again, but I'm very, I just don't know which word to use. Disappointed, I guess, that we as a group, we never came together to have our own vision and mission statement and having some type of strategic plan session. And for the last time also, I want to say a word about the word surplus. We do not have a surplus. Okay? If you look at your own budget, okay, the city of Peoria have $220 million in debt. We have $490 million of unfunded liability for pensions. That's over $700 million. Think about your personal budget, your own home. You know, if you said you had a surplus and you had $700 million on your credit card. So we do not have a surplus. I just want to make sure that people understand that. There is no surplus, and I'm just disappointed that the last 2 years we didn't get a chance to get together for some strategic planning session. Sorry, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before we cast our ballots? Okay, we'll go ahead and cast our ballots. I'm a aye. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
Motion passes with 2 nays and 1 abstention. Madam Clerk?
We are at new business.
Is there any new business? I'm not sure who's went first, so Councilman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I would be remiss if I did not shout out the Peoria High Football Lions, who have made it to the state championship this Saturday at Memorial Stadium in Champaign, Illinois, University of Illinois. That is going to be a great game. Shout out to Coach Tim Thornton and what he is doing with that program. I say this as a proud Richwoods Knight, but it's about Peoria right now, so I will put my bias to the side, and I will look to go to the game on Saturday, and I'm going to try to find me a Central hoodie to wear. I will be repping the Lions hard. So congratulations to those young men really rallying the city. And we really appreciate everyone who is rallying behind them. So let's get out there. Let's head down to Champaign. Let's support the Lions, and let's bring home another state championship. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre Allen. Let's go. Woo-woo. Councilman Riggenbach.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. I just wanted to point out an item we approved earlier, the Abington and Madison pipe culvert replacement. Not a very sexy thing to be talking about as a district council member, but I think this is something we should all take note of. We get asked a lot of times, what's that stormwater utility for? Why am I paying that? Well, you're paying that for things like this. This is a $900,000 fix for a problem that exploded, literally exploded on us in March of 2020 when a storm event caused this backup. So the city, we like to do a lot of cool things, and we all love to be part of that, and rightfully so. But this is the stuff that keeps the city running. And let's not forget that doesn't come cheap, and that $900,000 going to a pipe culvert is going to make that part of the North Valley much safer and much more business friendly, which is something that we're all striving for. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Grab.
Manager Urick, appreciate the email reminder that we will be conferring in the new year with our state lawmakers. Could you repeat that date and time for the council? And just a reminder that if they want something added to the list, I thought it was a rather comprehensive list, they should provide input.
Thank you, Councilman.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Councilman. So we are asking that our department heads and city council members, if you have any legislative items you want us to include in our legislative program, that we get those by the end of next week, so by the end of next Friday, December 2nd. And then we're looking at having the legislative breakfast on January 20th with the county as well, as we've had in the past. We'll continue to coordinate schedules and make sure that ties out for everybody, but that's the date that we're initially looking at for that. So, pardon me? No, we're probably looking at the downtown library. Gateway building's not going to be ready.
Okay, thank you.
Any other new business, Mayor Ali? Okay, Madam, go ahead. I don't think there's
none for. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
We are at citizens' opportunity to address the city council, and I have not received any cards.
Okay, I believe that if there's anyone in the audience that would like to come forward during citizens to address the council, you can come forward and state your name and address.
My name is Barbara Pierce, and tonight you tabled something for the Talisman Terrace short-term rental. My driveway and that driveway meet in the middle of the street on Woodway. I can't believe that it would be considered that you would put a motel across the street from my home. I pay $6,000 a year in taxes, and you want to put a Super 8 right across the street from me. There are children, little children, that use that whole neighborhood as a playground. We all know that. They run in the streets, they run between houses, and they continue to do so in safety because all of us are living in that neighborhood. That will not be the case when people are renting a home for 3 or 4 days a week. I simply cannot abide the fact that you all think that it's okay to put short-term rentals in a residential neighborhood. I'm almost 80 years old. I walk in that neighborhood all the time, and I don't And I know most of the people that live there. Well, I don't know them personally, but they all are invested in that neighborhood. And they all live there all the time. And I simply cannot imagine that you people think it is okay to put short-term rentals in a residential neighborhood. It just boggles my mind. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Pierce. I believe it looks like we may have one other person.
My name is Christina Rose, and I also live in Lyndhurst, and I'm sorry I didn't fill out a card. I was not planning to speak.
Could you state your address?
Oh, yes, 6206 Suffolk Drive in Peoria, Illinois. I sit on the board of the Lyndhurst Homeowners Association, along with my husband and several other wonderful neighbors. And I mostly want to thank you for the deferral that you gave us tonight, and to assure you that our HOA is pursuing amending our restrictions to prohibit short-term rentals. And we needed the deferral in order to get enough signatures, because if you don't know, Lyndhurst is one of the larger neighborhoods in Peoria. It has 342 homes, and in order to approve this amendment to our restrictions, we need 256 of them to be home, which has been rough this week. So we are very grateful for your deferral, and we are looking forward to being here on December 13th with you. And I think you'll find at that time that we have garnered not just 75% of our neighborhood, but probably closer to 85 or 90% of our neighbors not wanting short-term rentals anywhere in our neighborhood. That is the feedback we are currently getting at the 150 people I've already spoke this week alone. Sorry, my voice is going because I've been out in the 20-degree weather and the wind and the snow and all the things that were happening last week, trying to get the signatures in time for your meeting tonight. So I am very grateful for your deferral. I look forward to speaking with you again on December 13th, and I just want to make sure that you know that our neighbors do not want this, and we are working very hard and very quickly to make sure that you have that in time for your vote on December 13th. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
We are at executive session, and I'll defer to Corporation Counsel.
Corporation Counsel.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to invite a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to the Illinois Open Meetings Act, Chapter 5 of the Illinois Compiled Statutes, Article 120, Section 2C11, to discuss pending litigation, and pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 5 of the Illinois Compiled Statutes, Article 120, Section 2C21, for approval by the body of closed session minutes.
Oh, and do we have a motion to move into executive? Councilman Euler, seconded by Councilman Sear. All, pardon? Oh, I'm sorry, and adjourn. It's a double motion. Okay, all those in favor, cast your ballot. Mayor Ali?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes. We are adjourned.